A family dinner. My sister decided to call me the disappointment of this family. Her boss only gave a small, unreadable smile before speaking. The backyard in Edmond smelled like grilled ribs mixed with cheap wine, and the red and gold balloons tied to the picnic tables bobbed in the breeze for Dad's birthday. While everyone else wore their usual practiced family smiles, I stood near the grill with my arms folded, watching Skylar, Dad's daughter with Tina, drag her boss around like she was presenting a trophy. She slipped her hand through his arm and announced loudly, "This is the failure of our family." Laughter erupted, Tina's high laugh, Dad's booming chuckle, cousins snickering. Every pair of eyes turned toward me. Even the clinking of silverware and glasses fell silent. Her boss didn't laugh. He just kept his hands in his pockets, studying all of them. Then his mouth curved slightly as he said, "Interesting, because you're fired." Skylar's grin froze and the entire backyard stiffened. Have you ever been humiliated by the people who were supposed to support you? Tell me below. I read every single one. Later, when I pulled into the driveway of the old house in Edmond that Dad had kept all these years, the porch light still flickered the same way, and the crooked mailbox still leaned to the right. With a stack of empty boxes in hand, I stepped inside as the screen door groaned shut behind me. Mom's belongings were piled in the corner of the guest room, each box neatly labeled in her handwriting. Kneeling down, I sifted through recipe cards, albums, and her winter scarf. That's when I found a small velvet pouch tucked inside a cookbook. Inside was an unlabeled silver USB drive I'd never seen. I plugged it into my laptop on the floor. Files appeared, campaign drafts, mock-ups, slogans I'd written 5 years ago for an oil company. My chest tightened. All of them had been reused exactly, credited not to me but to someone at OKC Channel 9. That someone was Skylar Brooks, Dad's daughter from his second marriage. Tate Brooks, the youngest, was 19 now and mostly away at college. Growing up, though, it had always been Skylar and Tate basking in attention while I existed on the side. Mom's daughter from her first marriage, tolerated like background furniture. My real mother, Linda, died when I was 17 from fast, vicious breast cancer. One day she was showing me how to bake her cornbread, and the next she was gone. Dad remarried Tina 6 months later. Tina arrived with Skylar, who was 11 then, confident, adored, sparkling. Tate came 2 years later. From the beginning, the rules were crystal clear. Skylar received ballet classes, new outfits every season, and a shiny red Mustang for her 16th birthday. I got old clothes and a bus pass. Tina left Skylar sweet lunchbox notes, while mine was a plain peanut butter sandwich in a brown bag, on lucky days. Dad corrected none of it. He'd ruffle Skylar's hair, proudly say, "That's my girl," while I washed dishes or mowed lawns to buy fuel. When I needed braces, Tina said the budget was too tight. 2 months later, Skylar started Invisalign. I learned quickly that asking meant nothing, so I stopped. College was the turning point. I got into the University of Oklahoma with a partial scholarship, but Dad claimed money was tight. Tina wanted Skylar in private school and Tate suddenly needed braces too. My scholarship didn't cover housing, so I spent hours daily commuting by bus, working late shifts and sleeping 4 hours a night. Skylar, meanwhile, enjoyed a dorm room, meal plan, and spending cash. Dad bragged about her journalism classes while I hauled diner trays. Eventually, I dropped out to work full-time, and Tina told neighbors I couldn't handle the workload. Dad didn't argue. At 20, I moved into a tiny studio above a laundromat. No farewell, no help. Skylar texted, "Guess you're on your own now." Tate, just 8, still waved sadly from the window as I left. Years passed. I built my life from scratch while Skylar glided effortlessly. Tina cooked steaks for her girls and heated canned soup for me when I visited. Dad preached about family values at charity events while pretending I was fine on my own. The open USB folder on my laptop showed years of ideas I'd created in that cramped studio. Every concept, draft, tagline, stolen by the sister who already had everything. Mom had saved this drive. She must have known something. The next morning, I called my old freshman roommate, Illa Reed, the same friend who taught me how to survive on $5 a week. She picked up sounding sleep-deprived from a late shift. I told her I needed digital help, not details. She simply told me to come over, coffee waiting. Her apartment above a tire shop sat on the edge of downtown OKC. After climbing the metal stairs, Illa handed me a mug that read "World's Okayest Designer." We sat at her kitchen table while she plugged in the USB. Files loaded. Her eyes narrowed as she scrolled. "These are yours," she said flatly. I nodded. She leaned back and folded her arms. "Want me to trace the metadata?" That was exactly why I came. She worked fast, timestamps, file paths, fonts, color codes, until a full timeline appeared. 5 years of my work uploaded to the station under Skylar's login. The same Skylar who thought I was still serving diner plates. I stared at the screen. My first real break had been at 22, freelancing for a tiny rig near Norman. The owner paid me in cash and gas, but the safety campaign I made cut accidents by 30%. Work spread from there, drilling companies, refineries, pipelines. At 25, I created Brookline Energy Creative out of a parking space. One desk, one chair, one dream. My first hire quit after 2 weeks, and I didn't blame her. Late payroll, overdue rent, ramen dinners. But contracts kept coming. A statewide safety agreement. A rebrand for a midstream corporation. Revenue climbed into 6, then 7 figures. I finally moved into a loft office near the arena and built a real team. By 30, Brookline generated $12 million yearly. I kept all of it quiet, no online presence, no family updates. Dad once asked what I did. I said marketing, and he changed the subject. Tina assumed I barely scraped by. Skylar bragged endlessly about her producer job at the station, never noticing the parent company name on her paycheck. Brookline Energy Creative. Beckett Lang managed the OKC branch under my company. I had hired him 3 years earlier after he turned a failing pipeline campaign into an award winner. Smart, dependable, and without ego, he handled local projects and approvals. Skylar had been hired only 6 months earlier as a junior segment producer, low-level, routine work, never realizing she was technically under my corporate umbrella. Illa closed the laptop and exhaled sharply. "You built an entire empire," she said, "and your sister's been quietly lifting pieces of it." I rubbed my forehead as the truth settled heavily. The evidence was undeniable. She'd accessed the station's files because OKC Channel 9 was a Brookline subsidiary. She'd logged in using the generic credentials the station issued, downloaded my original work, wiped metadata, renamed files, and re-uploaded them under her own profile. Beckett hadn't detected any of it. Why would he? To him, she was just another junior employee submitting work. I thought of all those long nights in my first drafty office, the 2 a.m. client calls, the endless revisions after software crashes. I had earned every victory myself. No family help, no shortcuts, just grit. Illa poured more coffee, her tone firm. "So what now?" I stared out her window at the gray OKC skyline, letting the questions sink in. "Now," I said, "I choose how this ends." That afternoon, Skylar texted me. A new message popped up while I sat by Illa's window. "Family barbecue this weekend. Bring dessert, Beckett's coming." I read it twice. Dessert, as if nothing had happened, as if she hadn't just been fired in front of our entire family. I set my phone aside and reopened the files from the USB. Illa had exported everything into a spreadsheet listing timestamps, file names, and user IDs. The earliest theft happened 5 years ago, right after I completed that safety campaign for the Norman rig. Skylar must have seen the mock-ups I had emailed Dad when thanking him for introducing me to the client. As I scrolled further, I found a pipeline rebrand meant for a Houston company. Same colors, same tagline, presented by Skylar on a Channel 9 segment as her own. Another file was a fracking awareness project I had made for a nonprofit. She had swapped stock images for local footage and aired it with her name on it. Illa leaned close. She didn't even bother changing the font alignment. Then came the worst one. A 30-second ad for a refinery turnaround, a project I spent 3 weeks perfecting, syncing clips, rewriting lines, adjusting voiceover pacing. Skylar had aired it exactly as I made it, except she added a cheap laugh track at the end. The client later called to praise our team, and I assumed Beckett had shared credit. Opening the original brief, I saw my dated signature. Skylar's version had a new footer, produced by Skylar Brooks, OKC Channel 9. No sign of Brookline, no mention of me. Illa organized the evidence into encrypted folders, duplicating them onto 3 separate drives. "This is airtight," she said. "Stolen intellectual property, contract violations, she's done." I nodded, but my mind was elsewhere. Skylar believed Beckett was her golden mentor, the person who'd raise her through the ranks. She had no idea he reported directly to me. No clue the station was under my corporation. no understanding that her proudest achievements were built on my stolen work. I shut the laptop, the decision fully formed. Skylar wanted to parade her boss at the family gathering. Good, I typed back. I'll bring the laptop. The backyard filled quickly that Saturday. Dad hovered over the grill as smoke spiraled upward, the same red and gold balloons from his birthday still tied to the chairs. Tina carried trays of food to the picnic tables, fussing with her apron that read "Kiss the Cook." Tate sat scrolling on her phone, swinging her legs, occasionally greeting cousins. Skylar drifted among guests, her laugh exaggerated, a beer dangling from her hand like a stage prop. I walked in with my laptop bag, completely forgetting the dessert she asked for. Beckett arrived wearing a navy blazer, shaking hands respectfully with Dad, greeting Tina politely. Skylar immediately latched onto his arm, pulling him toward the center like she was unveiling a surprise. Her voice rose above the chatter. "Everyone, this is my boss, Beckett Lang. Thanks to him, I'm thriving at the station." Dad beamed proudly. "Hear that? Our girl's a star." Tina glowed beside him. "Finally, someone sees her talent," she said. I placed the laptop on the table, opened it, and pressed play. The screen displayed side-by-side comparisons, my original designs on the left, Skylar's televised segments on the right. Identical fonts. Identical slogans. Upload dates glowing in red under her username. The backyard went silent. Someone's fork stopped halfway to their mouth. A cousin froze mid-chew. Skylar's smile twitched. "What is this?" she demanded. Beckett leaned in, scrolling carefully. With each click, his expression hardened. Dad squinted, trying to understand. Tina clutched her apron nervously. My voice came out calm, steady. 5 years of campaigns she stole from me and broadcast under her name. Skylar lunged toward the laptop. "Turn it off, that's private." Beckett stepped in front of her. "Private," he repeated sharply. "This belongs to the company." He looked around the table before delivering the blow. "For clarity, I'm not the head of OKC Channel 9. I manage the branch for Brookline Energy Creative." Tina blinked. "Brookline what?" Dad frowned deeply. "Never heard of it." Beckett pointed at me with slow precision. "Marama owns the parent company. I report directly to her." Everything fell silent. Tate's phone slipped from her hand, cracking on the patio. Dad's grilling tongs clattered onto the concrete, sparks popping from the grill. Tina dropped a dish of coleslaw onto the grass. Skylar stared at me, color draining from her face. You're my boss," I met her eyes, "have been from the start." Beckett removed a folder from his blazer, printed logs, metadata, files. He handed copies to Dad, Tina, and to anyone whose trembling hands reached for the truth. "Intellectual property theft, plagiarism, contract breach," he announced. "Effective immediately, Skylar Brooks is terminated. She is barred from all Brookline properties. Security will escort her Monday." Skylar's mouth opened and closed without sound. Her beer slipped from her hand, spilling across the table. Dad finally whispered, "Marama, you built all this?" I nodded. Tate stared at the shattered phone screen while Tina blinked at the printed evidence like seeing me for the first time. Beckett continued, his voice unshakable. "Pack your things by Monday. HR will adjust your final paycheck and restitution fees." Skylar staggered backward, beer stains spreading across her shirt. "This is ridiculous, you can't do this." "I already did," Beckett replied. The grill hissed loudly, meat burning. Balloons swayed in the breeze. Not a single person moved to help her. Skylar stood frozen at the center of the yard while the party slowly unraveled around her. Beckett slid the folder back into his blazer, calm and businesslike. "I'll handle the paperwork," he said, giving me a nod. I closed the laptop, slung the bag over my shoulder, and walked toward the gate without looking back. The grill popped, the balloons rustled, and my family stayed locked in stunned silence as I slipped out. The next evening, Dad knocked on my door. When I opened it, he stood on the porch looking smaller than I had ever seen him, suit wrinkled, tie loose, exhaustion etched across his face. He stepped inside without waiting and held a thick envelope in his hand like it weighed a ton. "We need to talk," he said. As I leaned against the door, he paced back and forth, tapping the envelope against his leg. "Skylar is shattered. What happened at the barbecue, it was a misunderstanding." "It wasn't," I replied. He stopped, facing me. "She's family. You can't destroy her over some files." I crossed my arms. "She destroyed herself." He thrust the envelope onto the table. $250,000, he said. "From your mother's side, take it, drop everything, let Beckett give her job back." I stared at the envelope, its corners crisp. You think money fixes theft. It fixes silence. He nudged it closer. Sign a non-disclosure, say the campaigns were done together, everyone walks away clean. I picked up the envelope. The weight of the check inside tugged at my conscience. Where did this come from? I asked. He hesitated, eyes shifting. Savings. Investments. Before I could answer, the doorbell rang again. Tate stood outside, her face tight with panic. I let her in. She brushed past Dad and placed her phone on the table. I have to show you something, she said. Dad's voice sharpened. Tate, go home. She ignored him and opened a video call to her dorm. Documents appeared: bank transfers, charity statements, payment logs. I volunteer at the fund Dad manages, she said shakily. Last year, 75,000 disappeared. Dad lunged for the phone. Turn it off, Tate swiped away from him. It went to Skylar's condo, labeled as a consulting payment. I opened the envelope. The check wasn't from Dad's personal account at all. It was drawn directly from the charity's funds. His signature was scribbled on the bottom. Dad backed toward the door, sweating. This is personal family business, he insisted. Stealing from a charity isn't personal, Tate said softly. I held up the check. You robbed scholarship funds to bail her out. His face went pale. I protected my daughter. Which one? I asked. Silence stretched like a chasm. Tate's phone buzzed as a new file popped up. A pending audit report flagged for board review. Dad grabbed his coat. You'll regret this, he said, then slammed the door as he left. Tate collapsed onto the couch, shaking. I didn't know what else to do, she whispered. I tore the check into strips, letting the pieces scatter across the floor. My phone started buzzing, an endless stream of messages from Skylar. Her texts poured in first. Please, Marama. Delete everything. I'm sorry. We can fix this. We're sisters. Then voicemails, her voice cracking, accusing, pleading, threatening. If you don't, I'll tell everyone you're unstable. You'll lose your clients. Brookline will fall apart. I read one, then blocked her. She switched to email, long dramatic paragraphs about loyalty and family obligations, claiming I owed her because Dad raised us both. She even attached drafted posts framing me as jealous and vindictive. Then came a letter from Dad, on official charity letterhead, urging me to withdraw all complaints and sign a waiver, or he would go public. He claimed my company was built on lies, and that my mother's death didn't excuse my behavior. I skimmed the documents. Empty threats masked as guilt. Tate emailed next, begging me to reconsider. Skylar's desperate. Dad's terrified. Please delete the evidence. We can pretend this never happened. I forwarded everything to my attorney, Alina Vargas. She called me within the hour. These are defamation attempts and emotional manipulation, she said. We respond immediately. Alina drafted a cease and desist letter, precise and unforgiving. Any further harassment or public statements would trigger legal action for libel, slander, and emotional distress. I signed it. Certified copies went to all four: Dad, Tina, Skylar, and Tate. No response. Skylar attacked anyway, fake accounts online, tagging Brookline clients with lies about stolen ideas and fraud. A few clients asked questions. I replied with Alina's documents. The rumor flames died fast. Dad tried once more with a voicemail from a blocked number. You're tearing us apart. Think of Tate, she looks up to you. I deleted it. Later, Tate showed up at my office, eyes swollen. Security called me down, but I refused to meet her. She left a coffee cup on the counter. I blocked her too. A week later, I saw the Edmond house listed online. Dad had put it up for sale. Tina's car sat in the driveway in the photos. I packed my apartment, donated furniture, scheduled movers. The Denver branch of Brookline was ready, fresh start, clean air, mountains. Dad's final letter arrived, forwarded from my old address. I'm sorry, forgive me. I fed it into the shredder, then into the fireplace. The paper curled into embers. Skylar's last email arrived soon after. You win. I'm nothing now. I marked it as spam without opening it fully. A few hours later, Tate texted me from a new number. I miss you. I deleted it instantly. The movers arrived at dawn. As the truck pulled away, the town of Edmond shrank in the rearview mirror. Its familiar streets, the oil rigs dotting the horizon, and the house that had held more ghosts than memories. Ahead, the Denver skyline rose clean and sharp against the mountains, a reminder that beginnings weren't always born from hope. Sometimes they came from letting everything else burn down. I changed my number that same day. Updated company contacts. Blocked every remaining thread that tied me to the Brooks family. A few clients hesitated, worried about reputational noise, and pulled back temporarily. Most remained after Alina's legal letters circulated. Revenue dipped by 5%, then steadied. Brookline held firm, stronger than the storm. Meanwhile, Schuyler vanished from the industry. Her name disappeared from station rosters, from media directories, from every hiring list. No network would touch her resume. Intellectual property theft triggered red flags on every background screen. She tried retail, cafe work, entry-level admin jobs. Rejections stacked up. Her condo eventually went into foreclosure, and she relocated to a cramped studio off the highway, neighbors unaware of the career she had once boasted about. Dad's consequences hit even harder. The charity board completed its audit, confirming the $75,000 embezzlement. Charges followed. He accepted a plea deal, 3 years of probation, full restitution, and mandatory community service at the very foundation he had stolen from. He wore an ankle monitor during grocery runs. No longer the respected, values-driven leader, he pretended to be at public events. The charity permanently banned him. Tina filed for separation shortly after, citing irreconcilable differences. She kept the house, sold the Mustang, and quietly disconnected from the chaos. Dad moved into a bare one-bedroom downtown, furnished with second-hand pieces and silence. Tate transferred universities, keeping her distance from both of them. From Denver, I watched it unravel like a slow collapse. The new Brookline office overlooked Union Station, the trains humming beneath my window. My team grew to 15. Projects expanded into renewables and emerging technologies. 12 million in revenue became 15. One day, I stumbled across Schuyler's final LinkedIn update. Open to work. All opportunities welcome. No comments, no connections, no likes. Dad continued meeting with his probation officer, sticking to the conditions. Tina hosted small yard sales to empty out the remnants of their old life. Tate rarely posted anything at all. One evening, I stood on the rooftop of the Denver office. The city lights flickered in soft patterns below, quieter and kinder than the chaos I had left behind. There were no more late-night messages, no more guilt-laden threats, no more attempts to drag me back into a family that had never protected me. Only peace, steady and warm. Cutting them out hadn't been revenge, it had been escape, survival, a reclamation. Schuyler learned that actions echo. Dad learned that privilege doesn't shield you forever. Tina learned that blind loyalty can ruin a household. But for anyone watching, there was a larger truth. Family isn't a contract you're forced to honor. Protect your work, protect your peace, protect your future. Blood doesn't earn loyalty, behavior does. Walking away isn't betrayal. Sometimes it's the only way to breathe again. And that's the truth I live now. A truth finally big enough and quiet enough to call my own.